Okay, we should see the red light. We're in business.
Hi, I'm Sasha.
And I'm Dahi.
This is GNS Tire Grinder, and welcome to another episode with a podcast with Greg Gaub.
How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing well, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, we're good, thanks. We're good. Been a little bit in and out of sickness over the last few weeks, but I think we're not on our own in that fact.
No, me too.
Yeah. How's your week going?
Oh, well, last night I went to race with the guys, so good start.
That's not too bad. That's always a good week then.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Sasha's keen to get started with asking you some questions, Greg. So I hope you're in the hot seat and ready for action. All right, Sash, go ahead.
Where do you live?
Currently, I live in Auburn, Washington, which is for people outside of Washington or the west side of Washington. I usually say near Seattle. Most people understand where Seattle is.
Yeah, and it's it's always interesting to see what part of the world people are from, and some of our viewers are over in Europe, and they don't necessarily have the same. So we often pop up just a basic show where somebody is. It's funny, we didn't know you at all before middle of last year, and we bumped into you twice, haven't we, since then?
I met you more often than I met most of the other people on the chat and other places.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how the world works? It's the two major slot car events we've been to, you've been at both of them as well. So
Yep.
How did you first get into slot cars, and what was your first ever set?
So I played with slot cars as a kid with HO cars, but that went away just like it does for most of us. I got back into slot cars because my younger son had some Christmas money he needed to spend or wanted to spend, and we ended up at the local hobby store, and he chose an HO slot car set.
Cool.
But it turned out there was a defect, and so we returned that. And in the meantime, I did some research and found out about Scalextric Digital, and so me and both of my sons were all excited to get a Scalextric Digital set. So the first set we got was the Scalextric A1 GP digital set. So two A1, which is like F1 cars.
Yeah.
On a very small digital track, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing.
Yeah. Well, we know only too well.
Oh.
And was it the cars in the packing set your first ones then when you got back into it, or did you ended up, of course, acquiring more? But
yeah, we only picked that set because it was the least expensive digital set that I didn't have to chip in a lot of money to buy, because the HO set was less expensive. So he put all of that money to the Scalextric set, and I added I made up the difference.
Yeah.
And then my older son bought his own car and controller, so all three of us could play. And then I just started buying controllers or cars and track and power bases, and yeah.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope or a rabbit hole, isn't it? That's for sure.
Yeah, that's where all my toy money went to for quite a while.
Yeah, it's I was just thinking on the Scalextric, doesn't that have the ability to switch between analog and digital?
It does now, but when I got started, it did not.
Yeah.
So I had to basically putting chips in every car that I bought.
Yeah.
And then I started running with an analog club. So I had basically separate collections. I had a digital collection and then analog cars to race with the club.
And how do you find the split now? Just curious, based on our own experience, do you still do a lot of digital racing, or is it primarily now analog you find yourself?
Right these days is primarily analog. It seems like there are big digital events like the Oxygen 24 Hours and other events happening over in Europe, but there's not a whole lot of digital club activity in the States. There's a few, here and there, but not like there is for analog racing.
Sure.
Several years ago, I started a digital club in my area and managed to find a few guys with digital tracks in the area, and we got together once a week, usually during the colder months. But then the pandemic hit, and that kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
When did you first start your YouTube channel, and what gave you the idea? You also have a blog, right?
So I started with YouTube before you were born, way back right after YouTube started being a thing. And if you look back on my YouTube channel, you'll find all sorts of silly videos and laser tag videos and stuff like that. So almost 20 years ago was when I first started uploading videos to YouTube. But I had web pages and stuff like that before that. I had a blog, aka a weblog, where I would like write about my daily activities and stuff.
Yeah.
For a little while, but I just kind of got bored of that. It wasn't really my thing.
Yeah.
So most of the stuff that I do online is forums and stuff. I'll go on to slot forum, slot racer. I'll go on the forums and on Facebook groups and stuff, and answer people's questions and share what I'm doing in the hobby and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, actually, funny you mentioned about the forums.
Yes.
I did not realize this at the time, and I don't know if you've noticed on any of our videos, if you've ever seen our layout, but somebody was on a forum and they were asking about a good layout, Carrera layout, and you suggested one that was one of your favorite for a reasonable size space. And our layout is actually a little bit of an evolution of the one you recommended. And I only realized that actually maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I was looking back and I found it, and I used it as a basis and changed it around. And I was like, that's great.
Yeah, one time, so you can kind of see my layout in behind me there. Cool. It's 2 8x4 sheets and an L.
Yeah.
Shape, which a lot of people have because they use a corner of a room or something like that. And I have a post on Slot Forum and other forums where I went through the whole thing from start to current status and stuff.
Yeah.
And at some point, people were sharing layouts. I don't remember what thread it came up in, but people were sharing layouts, and they showed a layout that was pretty much exactly mine, but that they had gotten it from Jadlem Racing over in the UK.
Right. Okay.
Which is a business that basically puts together custom layout sets, and you buy the whole set with all the track and everything from them for a particular layout. And they were basically selling my layout as one of their custom Scholastic digital sets.
So your layout is famous. Do you have a name on your track? Like, do you call it something?
Yeah, I call it Rainier Raceways because the nearest mountain is Mount Rainier, which you can see from my house. So,
and it's a very cool view to have, actually. That
I printed out a photo of Mount Rainier, which is on this back wall over here.
Cool. That's awesome. So Mount Rainier Raceway is famous and being sold actively in Europe.
I don't think it is anymore. I think after I saw that, I sent a message to Jadlem saying, hey, would have been cool if you said, hey, this is Mr. Flippins or Greg Gaub's layout, thanks to him, or something like that.
Ask and say, look, maybe we might even name it, something along those lines. It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but then it no longer was on their site of options. Not too long after that.
People always get afraid, don't they, when somebody, even if it's not a bad email, it's like, oh, it's too much hassle. Let's just take it down. Cool. It's funny how things work out like that, isn't it? Obviously that you suggesting that layout to somebody, and then I looked at it and I was like, all right, I think I can. I like the flow of it, and so I just changed it and added, and maybe took away as well, and actually turned out to be a excellent track. It's a great track to race on. So you do know what you're talking about.
And that's another fun part of the hobby for me is early on, we were like anybody else. We were just putting together track on the floor and trying to figure out what would work. And I started learning about how the more you do that to track, the looser the joints become, and the power flow is not as good.
Yeah.
And so I downloaded track planners to do all the playing around virtually, and then I would put the track together.
Yeah.
And it just became a thing. I would just, design tracks, and people would
That's
say,
cool.
"Oh, how do you do that?" And
Yeah.
So you learn through doing the track design and racing on tracks what will probably be a good racing track, but you never know for sure until you build it and try it out.
Yeah, exactly. You got to try, don't you?
Yeah.
I know we, went through various evolutions of track and tweaks, and until it was, something that was going to be nice to run. Not something you could take your eye off or was too easy either. But I think it's important to have, you see some tracks and you're like, oh, that's not. It's going to be horrible to run on that, but they might look
Boring.
Yeah, well, that's the other side, isn't it? It's
One of
kind of happy medium,
one of the tracks that I had during the evolution of my layout was just a whole bunch of straightaways with turn backs at the ends. And at the time, I thought that I would like it because I can get my car to go faster more often, but it was boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now basically what I tell people who ask, well, how do you design a layout? I say, start with the absolute longest straight that you can fit, regardless of the size of your table. Stick the longest straight you can get in there, and then connect the ends with a variety of turn radii and length straights and different angles and stuff. Because if you just do a boxy thing, then it's going to be fairly monotonous and look like a slot car track. But if you mess around with the different radii and have different straights of angles and stuff like that, it looks more realistic, and it tends to be more fun to drive on.
Agreed.
Yeah. What product did you currently design and offer for sale?
So that might be hinting at the GNS Tire Grinder, but I also have a variety of other things that I've been designing and printing for sale over the last 2 or 3 years of being a modeler as well as 3D printing as a hobby.
Yeah.
But the biggest, most impressive one that I am most impressed that I was able to create is the GNS Tire Grinder. There you go.
Here's one I prepared earlier. Now, I just thought it's nice to take a look at it. I mean, we're, between one thing and another, as you know, going to be reviewing this fairly shortly. And we spoke about it up in the scale racing earlier, but it's an impressive looking piece of kit, Greg. Tell us a bit about that design process. I mean, how long did it actually take you to get it together, really, so it was, I guess, a workable solution?
Several weeks, two or three, maybe 3 or 4 months. If you if you were to watch all of the slot car chats, the worldwide slot car chat on Zoom from start to finish, in amongst those chats from last year, you'd see me starting to talk about it and then show it off, show some progress and stuff. Basically, I've been truing tires for several years. I had one of the first Tire Razor machines, and I did the video for Tire Razor for their official how to use video. So I've been using that for years, and other machines came on the market that were very similar with the sliding plate, and through inspiration from other designers who did a reciprocating device, I did my own take on the reciprocating thing for the sliding plate and adapted that machine to the other sliding plate machines. So there's a reciprocator for Tire Razor, for Monster Motor Area 3 Tire True, for MSR, for RSM. But anytime anybody talks about a good tire truing machine, they're usually referring to a Huddy or a scale auto or any number of machines that use the rotating drum for the sanding material and then spins the tire against the sanding material. So I kind of wanted to do a machine that did that, but I didn't really have any inspiration on how to make that happen as something that I could design and print and make, right? I don't have milling machines and stuff. I couldn't do metal. Didn't want to pay for that to be done by a professional. And then Dennis on the slot car chat, Dennis Dixon, showed a machine that he had put together in his shop, because he does have some tools that can make some cool metal things. And fundamentally his design was similar to the GNS Tire Grinder, which is why I gave him credit in the name with the S for Samson.
Yeah, that was cool.
But then it basically, I said, I took inspiration from his design, the way that he had a bracket that held on the axle and the way he did the drums and stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, I could probably make that kind of thing. And then I just started throwing shapes in my CAD software and drawing things and making them three-dimensional. And it went through a few iterations, and then got better and better as I actually built the machine, sold kits to people who then built the machine and provided feedback to me on how to improve it. And there's an improvement that I'm still sitting on right now that I haven't fully tested, that I'm hoping to be talking about at some point in the near future.
Okay. We won't ask you what that one is then.
But I'll tell you what it is. It's a better way to tram the sanding spindle, to make the sanding spindle parallel to the axle. That's always a trick with any of the machines that have two wheels, is making them parallel so both wheels are the same size, both tires are the same size. Currently, it's possible to do that, but you got to have to dismantle the machine and mess with screws and stuff. My new idea only has one screw to turn to change it, but I'm not sure if that will be stable enough and work the way that I want it to. I need to do more testing.
That's pretty cool, and it's obviously a work with your fixed, axle pressed on wheels, and then I was just thinking the other day as well of actually having physical, say for example a Revo, a BRM, for example, scale off, maybe just having a spare axle there, and then just pop the wheels on. It's, to me, that's probably the way I would go. Would you say that would be the thing to do?
That would be one thing to do. I've been using my tire razor for metal wheels for years as well. So it's not that a machine that does a whole axle can't do metal wheels. You just need to put it in the machine. You don't even have to do both of them at the same time. You could do one at a time. My primary focus for the design of this was to be able to do pressed on plastic wheels, but that doesn't mean you can't do metal. So what I usually do, I don't have like a whole spare setup for other wheels. I just go ahead and take the axle and stuff out of the car that I'm doing the wheels for, and put them in the machine and do it in the machine.
Yeah, I was thinking we'd probably end up, putting it on top of some sort of a trolley with wheels on it, and then building a little partition kind of around it, so you don't get in trouble, for covering the place. Because it's nice to be able to do it in or around the track as well. Do you know what I mean? So so a few ideas just to sort of incorporate it in, but really looking forward to that. But it's well done on that, because it's a very, I would say it's a very polished design for something that's not mass produced. So nice work.
And I also, I'm not trying to make money off of it. I want to make it easy for people to get it. So I make kits and I make machines, and I'm selling the machines through 132slotcar.us. I provide the models and the build of materials and everything for free. So if somebody has a printer and wants to go and build their own, they can go download the files for free. I provide assembly instructions and every nut and bolt and screw and thing that you need to buy. And if it's not easy to find, then I've got a link to Amazon, a non-affiliate link to Amazon to go and buy the exact same things that I use to build them.
Yeah, cool. And is there Actually, I better leave it to Sash. Actually, she might have exactly this question in there somewhere. Sorry, Sash, we're getting sidetracked.
Guys,
Have you always been into designing and building things?
I'll say yes to that. I did not get an education in that, but like a lot of kids, you know, I had Lego and I had erector sets, which isn't common these days. But
Yeah.
I was also one of those kids that would take things apart and put them back together, especially if they weren't working. I would take them apart to see if I could figure out what was wrong and fix it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then when I got into 3D printing, it became even more feasible for me to design something from scratch and have the machine do the heavy lifting of making the thing into 3 dimensions and then, you know, nuts and bolts and things to put it together. So I started to learn how to do CAD design and design my own things. Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
What is your favorite thing you've designed?
Yeah, so even outside, obviously, the tire thrower is something that you've done and proud of, and outside of that, I guess some of the earlier things that you've done. What do you enjoy? What did you enjoy doing the most?
Well, definitely the tire thrower. I'm gonna put my going to my printables page to actually look at my models to help me remember what I've done.
Because you've got some cool stuff on there. I mean, actually, it's funny because other daughter, she likes to have a fidget, and I had a look and I was like, that's really cool because Elisa loves those. You like them too, actually, don't you? The fidgets,
Yeah, I like fidgets.
Yeah.
Yeah, fidgets are definitely on the top of my list of things. I got really into the magnet fidgets, and the cool thing about 3D printing is that you can print up to a certain point and then stick the fidget in the print and then continue printing so that the magnet or whatever is stuck inside the print.
Yeah.
And so I was doing a lot of magnet fidgets, both that I've uploaded to my printables page, but I've got dozens that I never did because for a little while I was doing custom fidgets. Like somebody would say, "Hey, Greg, can you do a fidget that looks like this?" And then I would design one and make it specifically for that person. Like there was one, I might have uploaded it, but there was one, a customer really, really liked bumblebees and honeycomb.
Yeah.
He wanted a magnet fidget that was honeycomb and a bumblebee. So I found some clip art and put something together and showed them, and they said, "Oh, that's great!" And so I made and with the colors that they like, and basically made this one-off fidget toy for them because they couldn't find what they wanted out in the marketplace, and I was able to do it for them.
Yes, there's a lot of reward, I think, in building, designing something, and actually then seeing it being used. I think that's
taking something from concept to design and then reality is it's a feeling that is hard to compare with any other. Probably totally unimportant. Hello. Edit this part out. Yeah, they didn't even talk. It was probably just
a machine trying to sell you something. Yeah, no, I mean, the 3D printing side of things is really revolutionized and brought the ability for, the average person to get involved with that, to design and something, to come up with something themselves. Obviously, you need knowledge around it, but it's been fantastic, really, and it's come on leaps and bounds very fast, The
printers themselves are a lot better than they were a few years ago when I got started, and a lot more affordable while still being better than they were.
Yeah.
And sites like Tinkercad and Onshape and stuff like that provide very powerful modeling functions for free. So I mean, Sasha could totally hop on Tinkercad and design a 3D thing that you could then print out on a $200 printer
It's pretty cool, isn't it, to be able to do that? If I had said that to you, 10, 15 years ago, you'd have thought I was loopy,
I mean, 5 years ago, when I was interested in 3D printing just as a side hobby, and people were saying, no, don't even get into it. It's just nothing but headaches and stuff.
Yeah.
I would not have thought that this is where we would be in only 5 years. I at the time I said, well, when I can walk into a Target store, buy a 3D printer and filament and everything, that's when I know 3D printing will be consumer ready, right?
Yeah.
That hasn't happened yet, but it's pretty darn close where we are right now.
It's pretty close, and one of the aspects I like about it is that there's old technology, say consumer electronics, whatever that may be. It could be retro gaming systems, and some a lot of these things are not available anymore. Now you have redesigned shells, replacement shells, parts. I mean, it's even switches that are broken. Obviously, you can't get them anymore, so people are designing their own and offering them for people to buy, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, being able to repair stuff that you can't get a part for anymore just because the manufacturer doesn't make it is really nice. There's a lot of stuff out there. You could type in, oh, I need something or other for this appliance or whatever, and somebody might have already done it. And if not, grab a set of calipers and hop on Tinkercad or whatever and do it yourself.
It's pretty cool.
It's super cool.
We are going to be reviewing your GNS Tire Grinder next week, and it looks like a great product. What is next on your design list?
I have had a few ideas.
Yeah,
I'm happy. So I'm happy if somebody else takes this idea and runs with it, because I'd rather see it on the market than wait for me to get around to it. One of the things that I've mentioned this a few times on the stock car chat and stuff. One of the things that I want to do is take a Carrera thumb plunger controller and design a 3D printed trigger for it, where you basically clip the controller in, and then the trigger actuates the plunger with the mechanism that you 3D print. So you basically just snap that in, and now you've got a trigger controller that pushes the plunger for you.
Yeah.
But you're doing it with your finger. I have ideas in my head how to make that happen. But designing a pistol grip thing with a trigger that this clips into is daunting. So I have not yet done that.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because we were literally only talking about yesterday about we were running a Carrera digital car, but because Sasha really wanted to use her SCP2, we've when she's doing laps or reviews, we'll often run it in analog mode, because it's very, the transition between, is like, I find it frustrating, going back to using the plungers, because you've got a delay, and it's just completely counter to what you're used to when you're used to the trigger.
Yeah. So you have a Omni slot box or something, right? That for your track.
Yeah, we have an Omni slot box, which is great, and we actually, when I first got my SCP2, I looked at your videos actually for setting them up. But I really like those controllers, because a lot of people are saying, oh, there's too many adjustments. I like having all the adjustments. See, I'm a button guy. I want all of those things there.
Me too.
I may not use every single one of them every day, but I like to know that it's an option.
Yeah. The thing that I find the funniest about people who say that is, if you were to ask them to show a picture of their controller, 9 times out of 10, it would be like a Third Eye or DeFalco Pro something or other with more switches and knobs than the SCP has. And I see at the analog club, I'll see some guy messing with his controller, and he's got the same dumbfounded look on his face that SCP controller guys often have. I don't know which to turn. Just play with it, learn it. It's not that hard.
It's I have I have a DeFalco there. Actually, that that limited edition one that they did. Dreams. Honestly, I'm ashamed to say I haven't taken it. I've looked at it, but I haven't used it. Because I like my SCP2, and I forgot about it. I kind of had it in the back, and I discovered it the other day, and I'm like, wow, I must take that out and have a mess around with it. But yeah, you get used to a controller, and I just like the feel of it. I like the weight to it as well. So I guess it just depends, people personal preference. Some people just prefer a basic Professor motor with little to no adjustments.
Yeah.
Keeps you out of trouble, maybe.
And that's why I always say, when somebody's asking about a controller, I might say, okay, well, look at these, but you really should get your hands on it. Go to your club, go to your store, and try them, with a car on a track, and get a feel for it, because they're very personal,
Definitely
subjective things.
Yeah, well, Sasha has the personalized one that Jim Cunningham did for her. And she just doesn't want to use any other controller now. So unless she can use that, you don't want to know, do you?
Yeah, like, hey, do you want to use my controller? No, I want to use mine. Do you want to use the Carrera controller? No, I want to use mine. Do you want to use this controller? No, I want to use mine.
Yeah.
And then do they ever say, can I use your controller? And you say,
maybe me.
I sometimes let him, but he mostly uses his controller.
Well, the way it is, Greg, it's like this. I'm going to have to start sneaking and turning down some settings on her controller, because this little lady broke my 12-month track record. It stood for 12 months on Carrera digital 124 car, and she beat the 132 record for Carrera mags with magnets yesterday. And I'm like, what has happened?
the pupil has surpassed the teacher, right?
I know.
I was crying. I was so happy. I was crying.
It was good. I was very impressed, very proud of her, because she's come such a long way in a short space of time,
She's going to be competing at the next slot at Nationals, is what you're saying?
Yeah, she's definitely going to be competing anyway. She's said she's definitely entering the 24-hour, and she's getting a team together.
Nice.
She's planning on stealing Julia from Alan and Alan, apparently. So who knows? You might be recruited yourself, Greg. You know what?
He's just there to film.
I'm just there to hold the camera, but I thought it was excellent. It was great, being at the event and everything, but it's quite an undertaking to, you race 6 hours, over the course of a thing, if it's a team of 4. And I mean, it'd be difficult enough. I've never raced for that length of time. Like, what about you? I mean, you've been a lot longer than me.
No, never.
I remember asking you. You were like, nope, I'm just going in the sprints.
Yeah, I know my limitations. I'm not. I can barely stand, up at the podium for, 10, 15 minutes, and that's a stretch. So last year around this time of year, I went down and ended up helping Dennis with one of the races that they were doing, because his team partner wasn't able to come.
Yeah,
and so I happened to be there. I'm like, okay, I'll do some future time for you, and it was only like 10 minutes between 10-minute stints, and even those were more than enough for me. I'm not an endurance racer, and I'm okay with that.
Yes. It's handy for me. I have the excuse of, I got to film it, Although we'll see how we go this time. We'll definitely be up in Tacoma in November for sure.
I like it there.
Not sure on any other ones at the moment. It just depends on how we go. We've a few things coming up, and it's like, well, we've got to. It's all far from us, down here.
Yeah.
Cool. What's next, Sash?
What are your favorite stock car brands?
I'm one of the guys that likes everything for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
because I started with Scalextric, and they're not known as the great slot car brand.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get a lot out of a Scalextric car, and you can get a lot out of a Carrera car.
Yeah.
So I'll buy a car because I like it. Maybe it's blue and yellow. Maybe I like it for some other reason. And I enjoy it for what it is. Now, if somebody were saying, if you're going to compete at a high level with a bunch of other guys competing at a high level, what car would you buy? It would probably be NSR, slotted, Thunder slot, MR slot car, Revo slot. Revo slots are I would probably say that if I had to pick any brand where you can just grab the car, stick it on the slot car track, and be competitive with other people doing the exact same thing, it would probably be Revo slot.
Yeah.
Because their metal chassis just make them so much more planted, and you really don't have to do a lot to them.
Yeah.
You can do them to begin with, other than true in the tires.
Yeah.
So they're pretty much anything from Revo slot is going to be a good, fun car to drive right out of the box.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think, we like everything. We have everything, a bit of everything, too much stuff, to be honest. But
we don't have enough.
I think if I was going to pick up something, what would my go-tos be? And I would say probably my go-tos, I probably lean a little bit towards the 124 scale. Sometimes I like the bigger mass, the handling dynamics, but you do get that as well from. I'm just going to say, probably the Revo BRM side of things. I enjoy driving them more than some of the others because it's a bit more involved. I like the fact that they're extremely closely matched in a series of cars, It's, say group twos, whatever it is. And you can have, various different, models. And they're all going to be relatively close to each other, which is not always the case, depending on in certain classes, or certain brands, you'll find that one car is a fair bit quicker than another, and it just makes it interesting. Everything has its place, I think, as you said, and you appreciate the positives and what are you looking for. Are you looking for something that's you can get going with straight away? Then there's probably a few brands that you would head toward first. If you're a bit more involved, you might look at something else. There's something for everybody there, isn't there, really?
Yeah, I've got a few 124th cars as well. Scalextric track really isn't designed for 124th cars, but the smaller ones get around just fine. And I've got some bigger ones, like I've got one of the BRM Camaros, the Sunoco Camaro, and it's a big old honking car. And I can drive that around my track just fine. So I can still enjoy them, but the bigger they are, the nicer a big track is.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you ran the Capri, the Bilstein Capri, didn't you? Over it. We have that. I really like that car, actually. We've got both of those, and they're super fun. And they can get away with you if you're not careful, just like the real Capri.
Yeah, I think I got I got fairly high on the roster for that support race. I was like third or something in my class, and fourth for the entire for overall or something like that. Yeah, I was happy with that car. Did a good job.
I think those the larger group twos, I would say they are. And they definitely benefited from a little bit of setup for us on the track. Initially they're great fun, but they weren't the fastest of the bunch, But after a little bit of fettling, they're still great fun, but they're pretty quick as well.
Yep.
The 240Z though that's going to be hard to match. Actually, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting one of those. I'm waiting for a good livery.
Yeah,
I'm not historical. Like I haven't been like a fan of road racing or any kind of racing.
Sure.
Until I got into slot cars, and I'm still really a slot car racing fan. I don't really watch
Yeah.
race. But the 240 was also one of the cars used in the original Transformers cartoon.
Yeah. Transformer fans here, Greg.
So do you remember Blue Streak and Silver Streak and Prowl? Those are all the 240. So some point I'm going to have to get one. If they don't do a livery that's close enough to one of those guys, I'll get one. I'll get a white kit and I'll make my attempt, or have somebody else do a Prowl or a or a Blue Streak, something like that.
I don't know if you saw, was it our last video or the one before, but when Alan went over to Italy, obviously his partner on that car with them, and they did a custom Aprilia race bike livery 240Z for him. It's beautiful.
I did not see that. I'll have to go look that one up.
Have a look at it. I'm curious because I said to him, I said, God, that's so cool. Is there any chance that, it could be made, And he was like, well, he said, ask the question. If there's enough people interested, you never know. But it's have a look at it and see. It's just something a bit different, I thought it was pretty cool.
Is it a race livery, like it raced in that livery, or is it a custom fantasy?
It's a fantasy livery, and it's based around Alan's motorcycle history, and very, very cool. Like the color scheme as well. It's very different, and not that there's anything wrong with the the BRE liveries or the Bob Sharp 33, but it's nice to see something a little bit different as well.
Yeah, I'm a fan of fantasy liveries. Obviously, I have no problem with fantasy liveries, but I know that they're a hard sell with a lot of people who are really dedicated to the race history stuff, and so a fantasy livery is something that it's hard to get a manufacturer to buy into. Especially when the cars are so dearly priced to begin with.
True, that's true. Fair point.
What are your favorite slot cars, and can you show us some?
Oh, I would have to go dig them out of my garage. I'm nowhere near them right now.
Well, you can tell me, and through the magic of video, I will put them on screen. Take some photos for me.
Probably, if I were to just pick one out of thin air, it would probably be the MR slot car Porsche 911 Evo GT1 that my friend did in a custom livery, blue and yellow, but it's based on the Marlboro. So it's basically your Marlboro, red and white chevron kind of design.
Yeah.
But with blue and yellow instead of red and white.
That's cool.
He did a fantastic job on the paint, and then he had it professionally clear coated at an auto shop. So it is just absolutely gorgeous as far as the appearance of the car. Plus, it's a really good running car because it's an MR car. A little bit of twist in those cars just haul.
Yeah,
that's probably my favorite one.
We'll get you to send me a picture of that one and I'll pop it up through the magic of video.
I also like all of my blue and yellow cars. I love blue and yellow.
You're probably going to there's a new Corvette C5 from Revoslat, and it's blue and yellow.
Yeah, that one is so popular. I've got a couple already, so at some point I've got to taper back a little bit. I have several GT2 and GT3 Revoslats that are blue and yellow, and at some point I got to say, okay. Sometimes I wonder if they know that I'm out here buying up every blue and yellow car they make.
It's all directed at you, these ones.
They keep doing it. So that'll probably end up in my collection at some point, just because I've got a little extra toy money. There's a blue and yellow car I don't have.
Yeah, well, it's there's always something that we're suckers for 917Ks. God, we've far too many of those cars, but we just really like them. You know what I mean? It's it's
or it's almost pretty much just Revoslat. But I have some other cars in my collection. I've got some more traditional race cars and stuff but probably my other favorite cars are the pop culture cars. So I've got the Batman and Robin.
Cool.
Back to the Future DeLorean and
Okay.
the Mad Max car and
Knight Rider, please say now.
the General Lee and other cars that I grew up with. So when they came out as stock cars, I'm like, yeah, I'll get that.
Yeah, we have them as well. We've Case is my number one, but
Yeah.
we have the Pioneer generally. Actually, I think I might have grabbed that when you were up beside me actually when we were in LA that time. And then we've got the DeLorean, and there'll be a couple of bits. I wouldn't mind the Mad Max car actually, but I haven't seen one that was agreeable in price in a while. So I have to look up in the slot car cave up in Allen's. He'll definitely have something lying around.
That's worth checking. He has a lot of new old stock sitting around, and it's usually reasonably priced. So, but when it's super desirable like that one, that they usually sell out.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
With the Mad Max car, the original, the first release was the clean pre-Mad Max car. It was the Mad Max car, not the Road Warrior car. So I bought that because it was the Mad Max car. But then they came out later with the Road Warrior version, which is all dirty and the big fuel tanks and stuff on the back.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up selling the Mad Max one because I like the Road Warrior one better, and I didn't need two Mad Max cars.
Yeah, I was watching the Fallout series over the last week, and I was thinking of that car, the Interceptor, and I was like, you know what? That would not look out of place in this series.
Yeah,
right at home. What is there any cars that you're excited about that's coming up in particular this year?
Not specifically. I'm keeping my eye out for things, and I usually try not to just buy any car that I fancy, because I've got tons and tons of cars that just sit in the drawers. So I've actually sold a lot of cars over the last couple of years. So yeah, I'm just trying to wait for something that I really like, or we're gonna run a car for the next club series, but I don't have a car that meets the spec, and then I'll find a car that I like for that.
Handy excuse, that isn't it?
How many cars do you have?
That is a very good question. I don't know.
Not enough.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. The exact right amount minus one. But I would probably say about 250, maybe.
Nice.
Somewhere between 200 and 250.
Yeah.
But that fluctuates because I'm selling cars and buying cars, and so somewhere around there.
Cool. Yeah, it's a nice number. It's and you find then you discover stuff that you've not forgotten about almost, and have a bit of fun with running it. We've been trying to do that lately, actually, because you get kind of caught up in. We do a lot of reviews and stuff like that, and you get caught up in the new stuff, don't you? And then you're like, forgot that we had certain things. Like, for example, Marty Ford was getting on to me lately. Also, he was saying, you have those Thunder slots, and I've not seen you using them at all. And I'm like, so we went back in, we took them out, and had a bit of fun with them, and it's there's just not. Sometimes you find there isn't enough. You're doing certain things, you get excited about new stuff, and you forget then you've got cars that you've not necessarily had or explored fully. You may have just run them a few times and you've not gotten into making them perform better or whatever. And there's a lot of fun to be had in that, I think, isn't there?
Yeah. Like once we had cars, and we were just looking at them one day after the review, and we're like, wait, we had that?
Mm-hmm.
So then we're like, oh well, why don't we put them on the track and drive them around?
Yeah, that's good. We've been doing a lot of just trying to put times down with certain cars lately, and that's been fun. And not one thing we found as well is that we've been doing a fair bit of stuff now off YouTube and just ourselves, just running for fun, because you can get caught up too easy in just doing videos and recording it, and you it can take away from the enjoyment if you do too much of that. So we
reaching to the choir on that one. I've done so many videos about so many things over the years, but and I do a lot of editing early on, and I just got tired of it. And so, if I'm putting a video up, it's fully unedited, unscripted. I just seat of my pants to just do it and see what happens, or it's just me videoing a heat or something like that.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. But sometimes I'll, like, especially when my track is clean. Right now, it's got a bunch of actual stuff all over it while I'm cleaning my garage.
Looks perfect behind you, Greg.
It looks great, doesn't it? It doesn't look like that in real life. But I'll go out there and like you said, just grab a car. I'll open up a drawer and I'll do laps with each car, and then I'll open up another drawer and do laps with each car.
Awesome.
And if you want real variety, get yourself some Scalextric Moto GP bikes.
I've heard they're fun.
They're not fun. They're super challenging. They're very twitchy because they have those slim can motors in it, and they stop on a dime because they have magnets, and you really can't run them without the traction magnet.
Yeah.
Because the tire, the drive tire is literally on the rails, so it needs to be held down to the track.
Yeah.
And I even went so far as to put digital chips into 4 of them.
Wow.
And race them.
It's not Technic chips?
No, I have Scalextric digital, so the original F1 chip is pretty small, and a very smart person who I only copied and followed their instructions figured out how to stuff one into the side of one of those bikes, and so I did 4 of those. You can actually find a video or 2 of my digital club racing those in my backlog, my back catalog.
I might do a little bit of a screen grab on that actually and post it up there. I'm curious now.
Just search Scalextric Moto GP or draw DRAWW for my digital club, and then Scalextric Moto GP. The real kick in the pants, pun not intended but funny, is that the riders or drivers are sitting on the bike, right? They're not part of the bike. They are sitting on the bike. And they have little magnets in their butts and a little magnet in the seat of the bike to help them stay on the bike while you're driving around. But if you crash, they're pretty much going to come off the bike. And we were doing a race where if you crashed, you had to have the driver put back on the bike before you could continue driving the bike around, and then you had to pull into the pit lane and do a count 1, 2, 3 stop and go penalty for crashing. And so that video is basically just constant crashing and struggling to get the driver back on and the bike back on the track, and catastrophic. So after that, I put blue tack under his butt, so when they do crash, they don't come off the bike.
I was going to say, who was the first person to stick shoe goo on there?
Those are a lot of fun because they're such a challenge.
We'll check those out, actually. I'm curious on that. We did see, we went to, it was like a model railway. There was a thing on here in Houston a while ago. And there was it's funny, there was a guy there and he had some SCX sets, and they were the smaller one, but there was a motorcycle, Moto GP one. And I was like, I kind of regret, actually. I should have just got one for fun, but I kind of disappeared and forgot about it. And I thought, they'd be cool. And then I saw up in Allen's, and he had some of the, I think it was TTS and BRM. They had these sidecar ones. They'd be fun as well.
Those are fun. Yeah, there was a blue and yellow one, so of course I picked up one of those sidecars. Those are a lot of fun because they're low and wide. They're tricycles, so they stay on the track pretty nicely. The Scalextric Moto GPs are just tall, so they have big, wide outriggers at the track to help keep them from tipping over.
Yeah.
Then they just come out. The SCX ones are really interesting. I don't have one, but I remember seeing them online. They're cool because they have a tilting mechanism. So when they go around corners, the whole bike actually leans a little bit while it's going around the turn.
Right. aspires to track down. It's funny. Sometimes you go to things like that, and they weren't that expensive either. And it's just I had in my head. I said, that might be fun just to have on for do a video on it, and it kind of went out of my head and got distracted by other things. That's always the way.
If you could pick two real cars, one fantasy and one you could buy in the future, what would they be?
For having my own car to drive around, or to become a slot car?
Slot car.
Real
car.
Okay, so probably one of the cars that I remember from Transformers from when I was a kid. So probably like Jazz, which is a Porsche 935 Turbo.
Yes.
With the slant nose and the round fenders and the big wing and the martini livery and the number 4. I would be big man on campus if I was driving one of those around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure.
And second to that would probably be Kit, because come on, how can you not want to drive around a sentient, computerized car? These days, there practically are Kits driving around. But
I was very close to buying a replica kit, back when I still lived over in Ireland, and I had this great idea to justify it, that you could rent it out to people,
Could.
Mark my words, do not be surprised if I still really want one of those model Transams. And if I find one that's suitable, the challenge would be trying to stop myself turning it into kit.
Yeah, back in the 80s, my family went to Disneyland and Universal Studios, and at the time, Knight Rider was big enough that they are still big enough that they still had a kit replica in the Universal Studios, and they let people go up and sit in the driver's seat.
That's
so
cool.
It was playing back the clips from the show and everything, and had the computers and everything in there. So that was a great childhood memory, going to basically see in real life the kit car and look into the cockpit and everything.
For me, if you're going to ask me, two things from my childhood, it's Transformers and Knight Rider. They'd be the two top for me,
Yeah, I love Transformers.
This lady's a big Transformers fan. She has what have you got? You've got she's got the Robus and flagship Optimus Prime and Bumblebee.
La di da.
She loves it.
Those are pretty cool. I've seen those.
Nothing to do with the fact that I also love them,
No, of course no. I thought about getting one, but at this point in my life, I'm less about acquiring things than I used to be.
Says the guy with 250 slot cars.
Says the guy who hasn't bought dozens of slot cars in the last year, like somebody else.
Yeah, you can't beat Transformers. I showed their Transformers the movie, which was controversial back at the time, and it's kind of become a bit of a cult classic now, hasn't it? I'll still never forgive them for killing Optimus, though.
I was understandably surprised, but since I was already a teenager at that point, I think I was 16 when that one came out. I'm like, okay, they're doing their thing. They've got more characters, and I kind of liked the new characters. I was
pretty cool.
I liked the new characters enough to not be traumatized too much. But they brought him back. They heard the will of the people. They brought him back later on.
You've got the new animated one coming out soon. I think Chris Helmsworth is. I saw something. I actually stuck they're chatting about it. I put it in my watch later list. I haven't looked at it yet, but that's interesting. Hopefully that'll be good.
I got a question for you. Have you watched Transformers: Rise of the Beasts?
That is the one that I have not yet seen.
There you go. She picked out the one that you're not saying. That's impressive.
But it's on my DVR, but I've not been a big fan of the what I call Bayverse, the Michael Bay films.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the one from 2007, the very first live action Transformers film. Yeah. I thought they did a lot of good things with that. But then every single film after that was just yet another we're saving the world from this thing that's been in the works for billions of years story. and the last night really, I was not excited about the things that were happening the last night. So I did like Beast Wars because Beast Wars came out when my boys were young and impressionable, and I like Transformers, so I checked out Beast Wars, the cartoon, and collected the toys, and me and the boys watched that and stuff.
Yeah.
So I part of why I haven't watched Rise of the Beasts is also because I don't want Beast Wars to have become mutilated in that movie. But I'll probably watch it someday. I did see the trailer for the new animated, CGI animated movie that's coming out, and it's interesting. I'll probably go see it because it looks fun enough and silly enough and G1 enough to be entertaining for me, and not too. And they're not trying to rewrite a story. They're just kind of giving a prequel kind of thing. So that's kind of nice.
Cool.
And it's full of famous voice actors. Like every character is another famous voice actor, or not a famous voice actor, but a famous actor playing the voices. And I realized, of course, that's exactly what they did with the original Transformers movie, because they back then all the voice actors were not voice actors, they were just actors, and they did voices for a cartoon, which was not so common as it is these days back then. Who am I to complain about them doing the exact same thing now that they did back then?
It's funny, the Rise of the Beast came out, and we had been out to Peru and done the Inca Trail only a month or two before, so it was very timely from that perspective, with regards to some of it being set there, etc. So it was interesting from that regard,
Yeah, the visuals are amazing as usual. Like I said, I'll watch it someday.
You have to be in the mood.
Gotta be in the mood. Yes.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about for in 2024 in the slot car hobby?
Racing against you in November.
Yeah. I'll go with that, because I probably won't go down to Electric Dreams anytime soon again. And if you guys are coming up for the 24, I'll do some races for sure. I'm not going to do the 24, so maybe I'll watch you doing the 24 with your team. But I'll definitely be racing against you in the support races.
Is it okay if I watch you do the 24-hour with Greg?
You'll be on my team of watching you do the 24 hours. Watching her do 24 hours.
I'll be working that camera pretty hard, so I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any particular new product or anything coming out that you're excited about this year? Is there anything you're sort of seeing and going, wow, that's going to be awesome? I'm super excited about that.
I'm still looking forward to the Slotted releasing their Polycar lane changers for their Polycar track.
Be handy.
So that people can do oxygen easily with Polycar track.
Yeah.
And Scale Auto said they're going to do the same thing. They're going to come out with their own lane changer. So once those hit the market, that'll be exciting. So yeah, that would probably be product wise, probably those. Jeremy just released a product that's basically a car break-in machine with a roller, so you can oil your tires, so it'll break in your motor and your gearing and oil your tires and everything like that. I'm gonna go ahead and pick one of those up because I think that would be handy for some of my cars.
Nice. What's the name on that? Is there a name on that device?
Yeah. Just a second here. We were just talking about it earlier today.
Yeah, I keep, every time you do your live stream, Worldwide Slot Car Chat, and I never get to time. I have a few times, but I'm always catching up after, because it's yourself. you've got certain times of the day and you're doing stuff and everything, but it's hard to do these things as well. So because you're all over the globe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why there's 2 different time slots that I do it. I alternate between an early show.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is the early show. It starts at 11 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah.
And goes for 2 hours. And then the other week is the late show, which starts at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So the early show is for basically anybody who's at home during that time in the US, but also those in the UK, because it's evening for those in the UK and Western Europe.
That's a good idea.
The late show is for everybody in Far East and then down under, because at that time of our evening, it's their morning, so they can attend without being in the middle of the night. But there are some guys who attend the late show from Europe, like get on, and it'll be 2, 3, 4 in the morning for him, but it'll be on anyways.
Yeah, that's dedication for you, isn't it? It's funny, I jump sometimes if I'm up, late enough on a Saturday, I'll go in and say hello in Pete's, Pete Brown's Trek fans, and just to say hi, and then sometimes I find myself still there. Then quite, it just depends. It's if you've not got something, I'll try and be around for that one tomorrow at 11 and go in the chat and listen, because I haven't managed to make it for the last number of times. So,
and that would be great. But don't feel bad if you can't attend. It started out as a pandemic thing, so most people were home. Anyways, so the time was basically because most people were home, and it just kept going. It just never stopped.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Right. Well, I think we're going to have to draw it to a close. Just I always have to keep watching myself on time, because before you know where you are, and it's one of these things. I never like to edit podcasts either. We like them to just be natural, sort of for the period they are, and that's it. And I always find if you start cutting and shutting these things, and they're just not, they don't tell the full story either. So, but I sometimes appreciate that people are, they don't necessarily have an hour and half to watch something. So try and curtail myself.
Oh yeah, the guys on the Zoom chat will go for like 2 more hours after we're done with the Zoom chat. They'll just keep going for hours and hours. I can't do it. I mute my computer and just let them keep chatting. I'm sorry, Sasha. What were you saying?
I was saying that as he always says, an Irishman could just keep talking for hours.
I must have some Irish in me.
There's could be worse things you could be doing too than talking. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah, but listen, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on with us, Greg. And if you have any further questions related to the tire tour while we're doing that process, we'll be on to you. And if you wouldn't mind popping a few of those photos over for me in that car, that'd be awesome.
For sure. And a bunch of stuff.
As always, folks.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.